Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Polygon Live. My name is Chris Plante. I am joined today by the co-founders of Subset Games, the creators of FTL, which is a game that has ruined my life throughout different periods of it, and I appreciate that. So thank you, Justin Ma and Matthew Davis. How are you doing?
Well,
doing very well, yeah.
Last year, you won a number of awards at both, not only the IGF, but the GDC awards. What's it like coming back after that sort of year?
It's a lot more calm. We just trying to take this a lot more relaxed. We're not giving a talk. We're just meeting with people and like trying to enjoy the show and go to talks and stuff. So to avoid that stress.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm built
You're having
for
to
it.
worry about a talk as well as an award show made the show, well, fun, also kind of stressful.
Yeah,
and it's
I
nice
feel
to
like
just enjoy it and kind of...
You've kind of earned a break. Even though I guess not really a break, because
yeah,
you have
as
this
we
stuff
are
to
here
show
doing
us.
interviews.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to show us the expansion to FTL, which is coming out and will be free to people who already own FTL.
Yeah.
And we're going to hop into that right now, and a little bit later we're going to talk about the, I guess, iOS version of the game.
Yeah.
But first, I'd like to see what's new, essentially.
So the Advanced Edition is an expansion that it's mostly focused on just new content. We added a lot of stuff that we kind of left on the chopping board back when we first made FTL,
Sure.
as well as just stuff that we had ideas for during release after hearing from the community and things that they thought would be cool. It's something that we can enable or disable from within the hangar, so you can see that there's a enable disable button there.
It's a nice ship name.
And that way, if you do prefer the old FTL, we're not going to force this new content on you. If you think the clone bay is overpowered, then you can just turn it all off and you never have to worry about any of it. Yeah, exactly. There's some of the new ships obviously do kind of rely on the content. We have added, if you want to open up the ship list, we've added, 10 new layouts, I think?
Yeah.
A new layout for nearly every base ship, and then an entire new ship with the Lanius, which is a new alien race. And that has both Type A and Type B, making for 10 new ships, which is pretty exciting.
Yep.
Now, I'm curious, free is not kind of the default in video games, unless it's free to play, which is a very different thing. What made you decide to go that route?
It's maybe a little bit of a complicated answer. I feel like we received a ton from all of our backers and our fans and everything, and part of this was just trying to give back to them. Part of it is just a lot of it's stuff that we wanted to do anyways, and part of it is that it started out as a small update and then just grew and grew and grew, and we decided to keep it free.
Once you start adding stuff, it gets difficult to stop. So it did get bigger than we intended.
Yeah.
Another big part of it, though, and one of the things I like most about the expansion is actually not even the new content, but a lot of the small features that we always intended to have in the game, just little polished things, like the return to stations button off to the side, you can see it under the crew, that you can just click that to send them back to wherever you've saved them previously. So instead of having to constantly send each guy and try to remember who works where, you can just go home and then they go there.
And you could also assign people with this button here, just FYI.
Or like when you get rewards now from like destroying a ship, there's nice icons and the image of weapons actually appears, and it's just a more professional looking little rewards box. And just tons of small bits of polish that makes the game more what we imagined to begin with, which we really spent months on just doing that kind of stuff.
Now, I know I said that we're going to talk about the iPad version later, but some of these changes seem like solutions for an iPad version, especially like sending people back to the stations that they're at.
There were elements of that for sure, because it is slightly harder to micromanage with the touchscreen. The return to stations was part of that. But a lot of them also just really did stem from things we intended that we never got around to.
Sure.
There's some like effects and stuff that we would hope to do. Like there's more indication of when your crew gains experience. We have little icons for it and stuff like that too. So it's just a lot of minor stuff that honestly just adds up to be a more smooth feeling game, I feel.
Part of it was like, we get bug reports regularly, and sometimes they're not bugs, they're just little things that the player clearly didn't understand. And they'll stack up, and it gets kind of, obviously we messed up there. If they're not understanding it, it's not because it's not a bug, it's because we made a mistake in another way. And so we've been focusing on those things that just keep niggling players and making sure that we can prevent that from confusing anyone again.
You mentioned that there were a lot of ideas that came from the players. What was, like a favorite thing that people requested, demanded that be put in the game?
Well, this station button, everybody is, and I mean, there's a lot of things that people really wanted that we kind of draw the line at, like sort of automating crew actions. We kind of really want to force that on the player. So this was kind of our concession of, all right, let's just make it smoother. But other than that sort of favorite stuff, I guess it's funny. We've been staring at this update for so long that like, I honestly forget what's in this one as compared to the original.
Some of the stuff was added nearly a year ago now for us, and so we're so used to playing it that we forget what is new. The stuff like the reactor subsystem, which adds extra power to your reactor for just a brief amount of time. You get like a 30-second boost of 2 to 4 reactor power, depending on how upgraded it is. I think that came directly from a fan suggestion at some point. Yeah, something we didn't really consider, but as soon as we heard it, it was obvious. Like, of course, that'd be so easy. And it really was one of the easiest additions in terms of we put it in, it was fun. We didn't have to really touch it.
Did you have a lot of requests for the alien characters? Because we have a friend who doesn't play a lot of video games, but he's the biggest Star Trek nerd that I've ever met. So when he saw this, it was like, well, there's obviously this, and this needs to be added for it to be a true kind of like space exploration game. Did you get those sorts of emails from people?
Not a lot of people suggest aliens, which is kind of interesting. From our perspective, adding an alien equals adding a race, which equals adding a culture and a sector and all the events that go with that.
And all the art for all the ships. And
all the art. And so it's a little bit more than just, I mean, way back when we were hoping we could have like one-off encounters, like you find like the equivalent of an alien egg that hatches and will potentially take over your ship. But then we decided to focus more on things that could be used in a variety of situations rather than just like one-offs. So that's why we're kind of like not focusing on just adding like a plethora of tiny aliens or something like that.
Which would be nice, because Star Trek does have that feeling of every episode is probably an alien race you're never going to see again. And it really does make the world kind of fleshed out. But for FTL, having too many unique things like that would really be confusing. Like if you have to introduce a new mechanic and a new rule for something every time you jump, I think it wouldn't be fun. You wouldn't be able to keep track of it.
Sure. And so much of the, I think, joy that people are getting, and again, roguelike has kind of become this broad term that's thrown at almost anything at this point. But learning those systems, that's the joy, right? That you see it and you know, well, it was tough this time, but when I see them again, like, I'm going to know what to do.
That's the hope, exactly. And so we try to make a few systems that are complex enough to be interesting, but simple enough to grasp and learn kind of over time. Yeah.
What is it like, I mean, working on something like this? Like you said, you've added some of these things a year ago. It's like, how do you essentially manage that? Because it seems like it would be, I guess what I'm saying is that you can lose track of almost what you're doing. My fear would be, if I were doing that I would add something and then take something out and then add something and be like, oh, I didn't even realize that all that had happened in a year.
I guess it's we're kind of treating this game almost, for the majority of part, other than like balance and stuff, it's kind of like a Minecraft style, just it's a toolbox, it's a playground in many ways. And so like, as long as we add something and it works within the other systems and it creates new exciting interactions, then we don't really have to worry so much about it, because everything just sort of balances off each other. Every new element that we add is a very tiny thing, but it's just when they interact that it's exciting. So as long as that's fun, it's not too hard just slowly adding things in theory.
How has success been for you guys? Because one of the other things I've been hearing a number of times actually at this GDC from indie developers who had a game like this that was like a smash hit, that maybe even the people who made it didn't fully understand how popular and big it would be, how it can just totally change your life, and your perspective really of like how you make games and how you deal with people. Has things changed basically in the last year and a half?
Definitely.
I think, you definitely can't say no, that things haven't changed.
No.
They probably haven't.
I didn't turn my clone bay on.
Oh, so you lost him.
Yeah, because
You lost two guys?
There's no sound.
Was it because of the Lanius that they died? Because
No,
the Lanius
I was just letting him die because I was going to show off the clone bay. But,
the Lanius are a new race that drain oxygen from the rooms, and they don't need oxygen to live, and so it's quite easy for you to accidentally kill crew members if you're not paying attention. Which is
it's hard to do during an interview, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of those reasons of like that's the type of thing we added in the advanced edition because we kind of got to play with more complex mechanics that a new player would probably get really mad about.
Yeah.
But back to what you were saying, yeah, things change and it was stressful, especially at launch, dealing with thousands and thousands of players. Liking it, but also not liking it, and you get a lot of trolls out there saying horrible things, which is hard to watch and listen to. A lot of tech support, and just the idea of customers that want to play the game and they can't right now because the drivers aren't updated, and they don't know how to update their drivers. Or that some other issue, their screen resolution isn't right, and it's a lot of pressure, and you don't want that. You make this so people can have fun, and to think that you're causing any type of strife is definitely not worth it.
Sure.
And then when you found success, it compounded because there's so many more people that are having that problem.
Yeah, it's something I had never thought of. We were talking to the creator of Antichamber last night, and he said it's this great thing when you hear like, I have 90,000 people who bought my game, and then what you don't think is like, whoa, 90,000 people are playing my game. That's 90,000 people now that I like care about.
Yeah.
And I want to enjoy this experience.
Yeah.
And that's not something that this average human really contemplates while they are.
It does eventually get beyond the scope of even what our brains can fully kind of grasp.
Yeah, it's pretty much just an abstract concept most of the time until we actually go to a place like GDC and actually meet people. So
Because we spend most of our time just sitting in our room, like working.
our relative office bedrooms.
I'm sitting there with my cats and I can hit publish and send out FTL to thousands and hundreds of thousands of players.
It's easy to forget that.
It's easy to forget that, but it does come home when you're going to hit that button. It's pretty scary.
So what's, I guess, the best part of this success? Has it allowed you guys, I mean, basically the freedom to, do a free update?
For sure. That was not only could we have the freedom to do a free update, but we had the freedom to take as much time as we wanted on it.
Yeah.
We were hoping to finish this last year, but we just kept adding things and kept polishing and kept really making it what we always wanted FTL to be.
Yeah.
And
the opportunities like working with Chris Avalon.
Oh yeah, Chris Avalon coming up. For those who don't know him, the writer of Planescape and a lot of other brilliant games.
Yeah.
He came to us and offered to write events for FTL, and as because he was a fan, and that's just weird, and it still doesn't make any sense. And Chris Avalon's now in our credits, which is
Very surreal.
Very surreal.
Some
Underneath your name.
underneath our name. Yeah, we didn't put him up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I guess let's kind of talk about the iOS version now too. I mean, obviously, I remember when this game came out, and everybody, it was one of the first things I feel like I heard was, oh, this has to obviously be on a touch thing. Perhaps I guess because it's almost exclusively mouse-based, even though obviously you can use hotkeys and everything.
Yeah.
But how difficult was it to make that transition?
It wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I think we both were wary of it because I'm not a huge touchscreen device user. It's not something I used much before we got going on this, and so that was a challenge. But
I mean, we always knew that, like, in theory, this game would work great with touch controls. Like, in theory, managing power, managing systems, being able to pause and think, and all that sort of stuff definitely makes sense. But we were, like, worried about a lot of the specific issues, like the hard requirement of screen resolution and what does that mean for iPad mini, and so all that kind of stuff of that maybe isn't the first thing you think about when you think about FTL on iPad. But all of that, I feel, ended up being a lot smoother and a lot more positive than I ever expected, so we're extremely excited about the iPad version.
I remember when we first got it, like a playable version, I was just blown away on how functional it was. We really weren't like expecting to be quite as, this is great, this is just as good as the PC.
Yeah.
And, I mean, speaking of iPad mini, is it more difficult because it is, obviously not quite as big? Is the precision more of an issue?
It hasn't been an issue for us. Maybe we have smaller fingers.
We haven't, from the people who've been testing it, there hasn't been, actually I don't know how many of them have iPad mini specifically, perhaps.
I think it's about a good chunk of our testers have iPad minis, yeah.
So, yeah, we haven't had any...
No one's mentioned that,
Yeah.
so I hope it's okay.
That's possible. And how soon do you think it'll be before everyone is playing it?
Well,
I mean, basically everyone is who I assume will download this.
It's just
that seems
going to be
how
everyone.
it goes.
Yeah.
You released the game on PC, and apparently it seemed like everyone played it.
well, we're planning to have both the update and the iPad version released at the same time, and we'd love to give an actual date, but like as per usual, we don't want to promise anything if there's any chance of it being pushed back. But in general, very soon.
Yeah, very soon at this point.
Yeah, we'll
No.
leave with that.
That's fair. I know how it can be tough to promise one thing and then some last minute thing
Invent
happens.
everything.
Oh no, things just got.
Well, I don't have any
This
humans,
is the benefit
so
of no
yeah.
landing.
I killed off my humans, so may as well just vent the whole ship.
They have no need for oxygen now. But then you get a human and a reward, and he dies because you didn't. It's really sad.
I'm doing pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk through is there anything on screen right now basically that is some of the new stuff that?
He's using the hacking system right now, which is that little purple drone that's connected to the enemy ship. It has a unique effect on every system that it might attach to. It's an activated ability down at the bottom that when you click it, it does its thing for like 10 seconds or so, depending on how upgraded it is.
So for example, this drone is now just wailing on my ship, and since I've hacked the drone system, it'll stun any drones that are being used by the drone system, and depending on how long it hacks, there's a good chance it'll destroy any drones that's being hacked. In addition to that, it doesn't matter for this automated ship, but it also locks down the room that it's in, gives you vision of that room and the vision of the power of the system, which honestly is surprisingly useful.
So if there's like someone stuck in that room when you lock it, and then you could maybe toss a firebomb or something in there, then they have troubles getting out of that room, and they might die because of the fire, because the hacked room just trapped them. So there's little elements to it that kind of combine well with everything else. We were really excited during the initial version of FTL with the ability that most players didn't get to use because it was the crystal ship and the crystal aliens that got to use it, that they could lock down rooms, preventing enemies from getting in and out. And that element was actually really interesting from a design perspective, but we ended up with it accidentally in something that nobody ever got to see. So we tried to put it in a little bit more common gameplay for the advanced edition because it is a lot of fun to do.
Sure. I'm curious what the most, I guess, your favorite thing that you've added to the game is for each of you individually.
Maybe my favorite thing we haven't talked about is the fact that, and I could show you if I had more people more easily, you can man both the door system and the sensor system. So what that does, you can see here, is these two subsystems have a half power essentially, and so if you man it, it will bump it up one power. So for example, before you even have a chance to upgrade your doors, if someone's coming, you send a guy in there. It's not the greatest blast doors anymore, but it will give you a bit of a help. Also with the sensors, if you want to go invade their ship and teleport over there, you can send someone to man the sensors to give you a vision. But when you're not necessary, you don't need to have them operating it.
And it's nice then when you have like right now when Justin's playing with only 2 guys, there's a lot more that the guys can actually be productive other than repairing. And so it's a little bit more tactical in terms of, oh no, I should run him over the doors real quick, but then I've got to keep him on this for this, and that's fun. Or when you have a full ship, more of your guys can do something. Because it kind of feels sad when you've got a crew of 8 and only like 3 of them are typing away at consoles and the rest of them just stand around waiting to do something.
I think I understand now why you guys made a fantastic game and why I never would be able to. Because my logic would be like, oh, well, the explosions or the aliens are great, and that's such a technical answer. But when you're saying, I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's just like thinking that way explains a lot.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the core thing I was explaining before. That's interesting, I think, about FTL is that all the systems are all the mechanics are very simple. It's just the way they interact. So when we're designing something, someone may say, oh, it'd be cool to have X system, but what really matters is whether or not it interacts with everything else in a meaningful way, bringing up new situations. Like we designed this hacking system, and this hacking system underwent many, many different changes. But still now I'll play the game and get a specific situation that I'd never gotten before and was totally blown away by. Yeah,
There's fun
I'll
little
see
stuff,
if I
like
can
if
get
they
anything
hack
going.
your teleporter system, like the enemy has hacking drones as well, then they will force return your crew.
yeah. So if you, for example, send your Lanius guys into their teleporter room to drain the oxygen, you can forcibly teleport their guys back, and then they're stuck without oxygen, for example. You can also, so I just have a mind control device now. So for example, I can use this to temporarily take over this rock guy, for example. Now I'll start attacking the pilot station, and there's no more evasion for that ship. But you can also use that in very sort of bizarre ways. Like, for example, you can also, because they temporarily become kind of like your crew, you can mind control them and then teleport them back to your ship, and then just finish them off or do whatever you want.
Or if they're on your ship, you can mind control them, and they'll stop shooting, and they'll just start manning the weapon system.
Yeah, and they'll just start
helping out for a bit, or repairing the damage they just did. I think mind control is one of the ones that was immediately fun as well, and it had a lot of weird elements that came together.
Sure.
It's probably my favorite edition.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious, like, what's next for you guys? I don't think you can tell us what game you have down the line, but like, are you gonna take a break? As you put the kind of bow on FTL, or what are you thinking?
I think a break is warranted at some point. We still hope to look into getting the touch interface on more devices. Stuff like just the Surface PCs. A lot of users would like to use the touch, but they can't. And then Android is something we want to look into. So there's some technical challenges ahead still. But a break would also be nice, because it's been about 3 years now of FTL for us.
Oh man.
Which is a kind of a longer than we expected.
Yeah,
myself.
longer than what started as a 3-month project or something.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to whatever the next acronym is that you release upon the world. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. If you want more of these videos, we will have them all week. We have a number left. So many exciting things. If you haven't checked out already, the Velocity 2X video, it's choice. So go to polygon.com or youtube.com/Polygon. Until next time, we will see you later. Bye.